it's not every day you get a chance to have two Dean Millers and one esteemed faculty member together for a conversation, but today is that day. My name is Dr. John Miller, and I have the pleasure of serving as Dean of the Raymond A. Kent School of Social Work and Family Science, and today we have a treat. Today is my pleasure and honor to interview our 2025 Alumni Fellow of the Year, Dean Dr. J. Miller, who is a 2013 graduate of our illustrious PhD program. I also have beside me today the Dr. Anita Barbee, who is also a former recipient of our 2024 Alumni Fellow of the Year. And so all that's to say, get your popcorn ready. We're going to have a great conversation today, talking about leadership, maybe a little bit about life, and what drives these two individuals to be the outstanding human beings they are. And honestly, for both of you, Jay, Anita, it is my honor. It is my pleasure. And I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Likewise. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
No
We're
worries.
excited too.
And of course, let's state the obvious early. We're Millers. This is my cousin from somewhere down the line, right? And you know, John Miller, Jay Miller, and the irony is that my folks back home in the beloved Low Country of South Carolina, they know me as Jay Miller. And so this is truly a Jay Miller moment. The internet is officially about to get from me. All right, so let's start a little bit about leadership. And so I'll start with Dean Miller. I'll start with you first. What inspired you to pursue social work, and how has that shaped your leadership?
My personal story journey is really the only reason I'm in social work. Third grade, I was in an interesting happenstance to have an experience with a social worker. Didn't know it at the time. Okay. CPS worker. And I left the school office and I kind of committed that day. And it sounds very storybook to tell it now, but it was literally, I said, I want to do what that lady does. I want to do it a certain way. Now I can tell you, and I joke, nobody in life has ever grown up saying I want to be a CPS worker. Right? But I did, and it's because I kind of saw this pathway to serve and truly help people to make a difference in spaces. So
No doubt.
That's been the motivation since day one. It's still the motivation. Every day I wake up, I think about that experience and get about the business of doing the work.
Thank you, man. And by the way, it shows, right? Because again, your authenticity, right? At the end of the day, you can't really fake this work in terms of how it comes across and what you do. So speaking of which, so Anita, same question for you, Dr. Barbee. What drew you to social work?
Sure, I could think it's family is usually the starting point. So I had some issues in my family, my extended family, and a history of maltreatment. And so I went into psychology originally and developmental work, and came to social work school by accident.
Right.
I didn't want to be over in the psych department. I wanted to be with people who I felt had my values, and worked on child welfare work and thought, oh, this is perfect because it ties with my family experience, my values, and it's a wicked problem to try to solve, the system of child welfare, so that makes it interesting.
I love the fact that both of you in your journeys, you actually want to tackle the tough problems, right? Now, so often we think about, okay, what's necessary? Like when it's time to get into any field you want to get into, it's like, am I doing it for money? Am I doing it for what have you? And of course, we all got bills. We need to But your why is very powerful. So let's talk a little bit about transformational leadership in higher ed, right? We're all products of higher ed. We're Dean of the University of Kentucky College of Social Work, Kent School, and of course, a longtime faculty member who has trained and mentored countless students. So when you think about transformational leadership in higher education in general and social work, Anita, I'll start with you this time. What are some of the attributes that maybe we can share with our visitors today in terms of what do you see as quality attributes for transformational leadership during this time?
Well, it's important to understand history and understand not only where we've been, but where we're going to go, and have a good vision and learn from history, some pathways, as well as being really rigorous in how we do our work. So both inspire, but also build on data and evidence and all the things we've learned all these years. I think that'll be a good way to move into the future with that foundation.
All right, great. Dean Miller, what about you?
I think it's really rooted in kind of this concept of being authentic, keeping it real all the time. And even in the tough spaces, a lot of times we get in these situations, particularly as leaders, where it's always hard to say the true thing.
Yeah, that's right.
A lot of times we're faced with a bunch of bad options. Yeah. So trying to kind of sift through things and get to a space where you are making the best decision, communicating with folks and kind of letting them know and understand. I always say I'm not under the illusion everybody's going to like every decision.
Right.
but my goal is to have them understand the why we had to make it.
Right.
But I think if you can kind of stay true to this realness, like that's what gets to the transformation. So many times say there's ignorance and there's ignorance, and those are two different things. And if we can address both of those, then we'll be in a good spot.
Early contender for line of the interview. So run out of good. So there's ignorance and what?
There's ignorance and there's ignorance.
All right. Okay.
They're two very different things.
And all jokes aside, absolutely, I agree with you 110%. Because again, the work is so great, the responsibility becomes greater. Because in these roles and the things we do, we have to think multiplication, not addition, right? In terms of how do you do it in an effective way. All right, so let's one more question on the leadership journey. This is a lessons learned question. So Jay, I'll start with you this time. We've all led through periods of great change, right? Currently, clearly, we all going through a variety of changes right now in our world in 2025. What lessons have you learned about navigating uncertainty while staying true to your mission, right? So all the things we just got talking about, keeping it real, that has a cost to it. So what lessons have you learned from everything you've already shared?
Lesson number one, difficult takes a day, impossible takes a week.
Okay, Gen Z.
Meaning when we get to a spot where so many times we don't make it easier on ourselves,
right.
We kind of will look for reasons to not do the thing that we need to do. And so even in difficult spaces, there's always a pathway. So thinking about the strategy or the strategic engagement of navigating a situation, understanding the cards you have and the cards you don't, not getting too or overly involved in the fight of it, but knowing that at the end of the day, there's someone on the other side of that issue. And so it really kind of helps to center in and focus on, it's not an option to not do it.
Right.
You just have to figure out how.
Okay, I love it. Dr. Barbee, what about you?
Yeah, I think, and I struggle with this, is trying to stay optimistic and not go down those dark paths of emotion and being very problem focused.
Right.
And just work the problem until it's done.
Yeah.
And so, and I tell that to my PhD students as they're facing classes or doing a new research project, it's just work the problem and don't get so flustered. So we all have to remember that because it's easy to get discouraged.
And that's where vision comes in, right? Like you said, in terms of difficult takes a day, impossible takes a week, you have to believe that first. If you don't believe that first, it becomes lost in it. And I think that certainly in our business, especially as we work with students, faculty, alumni, et cetera, sometimes because of the nature of how we lean on evidence,
right?
How do you have hope sometimes when the evidence suggests that maybe you, so it takes...
This may not turn.
I think but you know a lot. Yeah, please.
Then also, I think if you get into keeping problems in context, like sometimes somebody might come in and they say, I got this problem. And you listen to it and like, why don't you try having some real problems?
Right.
So, right. There's the things we get so caught up in.
Yeah.
I'm like, there are folks that woke up and couldn't eat this morning, or didn't have space this morning, or didn't. So some of the things that my office chair or the paint on my, those things, I mean, they can be important, but we can't lose sight of what we all came to do. And so I think kind of keeping it in check and keeping it in context is important.
Yeah, absolutely.
You remember the mission.
Yeah, remember the mission.
And you got to have people around you that help you do that.
Yes.
So you got to have critical friends, like tell you what it is and tell you what it ain't.
Right.
Ain't. Sometimes you got to have somebody pull you aside, like, we're not doing that.
True. And by the way, I agree, and I'll even go off of what you gave a Jay-Z line earlier, so I agree with the Beyonce line. We didn't wake up like this. Right? Not in wake up like this, right? So the last question I'll ask in this segment before handing over to you, Anita, answer a few questions, is what was your I belong here moment, right? So Dean Miller, you have tremendous confidence, man. Honestly, I give it up to you, brother. It emotes from you, right? And likewise with Anita. And so as this confidence that we all share in terms of knowing that we're the right people at the right time to do this work, what was your I belong here moment in your professional journey, whether it be your professional social work journey, your academic journey, or your journey as a dean? What was your I belong here moment?
I think it's, I always say wherever I am is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so, again, belonging it's all relative to me. And if I'm in a space, I feel like I'm supposed to be there.
Yeah.
Now, other people might not feel the same stuff. It's cool. I get it.
Yes.
But I think, again, when you kind of go around looking for or finding yourself in spaces and knowing that whatever space that's in, it can be fleeting, it can be temporary, or it can be a long time, but there's always something to be done in a space. And if you engage in every space like that, I think you're comfortable everywhere, and you know where you're supposed to be wherever you are.
Fantastic. Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, it's internal.
Internal. Yep.
I mean, it's nice to have the external accolades or to have success, but if you come to it,
Right.
I went to a women's college, so we just took over spaces, and we said we're not going to not be here,
Right.
And so I think you all have those kind of experiences from your community too, and so I think bringing that helps.
And Anita, I'll give you some praise in terms of one of the things I admire about you is that I never wonder if you care.
Oh,
right.
okay.
And honestly, sometimes when we talk about how do you really bring your true authentic self to a space, I never worry about you questioning whether or not you belong, because people who don't belong, they don't care the way you do. You have to have a certain amount of care in terms of your willingness to say, I belong here, right? Because there's so many voices that can tell us that we don't.
Right, that's right.
So absolutely. So
Appreciate
with that, Dr. Barbee, I'll transition to you. I know you have a few questions.
Yes.
A little bit about collaboration and shared purpose.
Yes. So I think what I want to start with is partnership and how you all have built partnerships with community or with students or with higher administration in order to bring about the missions that you have dedicated your lives to. So I'll start with Dr. J. Miller from UK, and then we'll move over to our Dr. John Miller.
All right. That works.
Well, I think it's interesting to talk about the tacky part of partnerships in here in UK, U of L. We got a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun with it. But as I always say, there's enough social problems for everybody.
Right.
There's no need for folks to be fighting or falling over themselves for who's going to solve this or who's going to solve that. So I think at the end of the day, I think about partnerships in the sense of who wants to do something.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't even know what that something is.
Right.
But I think I have no interest in meeting for the sake of meeting. I have no interest in strategic planning for 6-7 years.
Right.
To do another plan for 6 or 7. So I think being in spaces and really getting to the business of what it is that we're doing, forging relationships with whomever will do the work. I think so many times we get into these predefined spots of, well, maybe I can work with you or maybe I can work with you. At the end of the day, I don't care. If you're about the business of trying to get to or solve a challenge, let's go. It doesn't matter where you came from or, frankly, where you want to be. Because in the space that we're in, we have a common purpose. And I think if you kind of lean to that, we can argue about cats being better than cards or how see that later on, right? And that's it's fun to do and to lean into. And I think a lot of times leaning into that helps get to solving the challenges and forging relationships. But at the end of the day, we know I'm not going to let a game or the color of a shirt impact. That's right. What partnerships we forge to get to the business and help a folk.
No doubt. I think that absolutely, I'm 100% with you on that, right? And so I'll give a testimonial in terms of what this looks like in real life. Last night I had the privilege of meeting Dr. Dean Miller's beautiful family at the Alumni Awards. And so, of course, we say hello and, our wives and families meet each other and say hello to the children. And I immediately went into like uncle mode, right? You know what I'm saying? I immediately was like, tell me the best thing about 6th grade. Tell me the best thing about 4th grade. But it's part of that trying to demonstrate that our community is community, right? And so I grew up in the low country of South Carolina, in that area, in that part of the country. The African-American experience is so much tied to community in terms of, I grew up in a small town neighborhood where we had a small classroom building. It was called a classroom, but it was actually a place where people had worship services, and it truly was a social hospital. Like it was the schoolhouse, it was the church house, it was the medicine house, and we had problems. All of that's to say, when we talk about partnerships and being an effective agent for change or an effective social worker, we have to bring our full selves to the table. And when you bring your full self to the table, I think if you're doing it authentically, which seems to be your headline in this conversation, when I'm really trying to get the work done, Jay, I agree with you 100%. I don't care if you're a cat or a card or a mouse or a dog. I need you to be willing to get this work done. And, we can talk about our differences on game day. But the reality of it all is that the work in the Commonwealth is too great. The work that we need to do in the Southeast, in our nation, in our world is so great that at the end of the day, we have to have like-minded people come together to say, we're about the work. And so, Dr. Barbee, that's what I think about that partnership.
That's really great. And so what would you tell our future graduates, because we've got people launching in December and May, and they just keep coming, about collaboration and working with community?
Sure. You mind if I take this one?
Yeah,
first?
yeah.
I'm corny like that. So if this is your first time meeting me, I am 100% in my dad joke prime, like a 14-year-old and a 5-year-old. No, and so I'm gonna say a line that's a model that I kind of live by, but chase the learning, not the grade. And I really do think that when people graduate, so oftentimes we think of a graduation as a finish point. We ran into a student today on the way in the library. She was like, "Oh, it's been such a long journey," and it wasn't the moment for me to just stop her and like, "Tom," they're like, "Baby, you just didn't start." But at the end of the day, if we really are who we say we are, and we are folks who pursue lifelong learning, I haven't had a graded exam since 2007. It is 2025. But I every day try to wake up as a continual learner, right? So the idea of chasing the learning, not the grade, really being mindful of, I cannot expect to help the world in 2045 if my learning stops in 2025. And that is something that I think as leaders, as folks who love our profession and what we do, if we're not multiplying ourselves and giving students that, then I think that we fail the people that we're in charge of inspiring. So chase the learning, not the grade.
Oh, I love that. Thanks. And
If I had to tell them once, I'd tell them to get over themselves.
Yes.
And I truly mean that. And I remember the first time someone told me that, I was like, "What do you mean?" And I hope somebody looked at me and they said, "Jay, you're not that important." Right? And I was at school, right? And so I didn't know how to take it at the time. But what they were really communicating to me is that you are here and your being is important, but it's not the only thing right here. And I think so many times we don't see past ourselves, which makes it really hard to understand and to know about true partnerships or true collaboration. So in the vein of that learning, I say all the time, my way of thinking is a way and not the way.
Right.
And the second that you think your way is the way, you're kind of done.
Yep.
Because that's it. And so I think really encouraging folks to kind of see past themselves. And it can be really hard at times.
Because we're all a little bit narcissistic.
Yes. And it doesn't mean that you're not important or that you're valuable. It just means that there are other people in these spaces. And I think the minute that you see past yourself, you have a better sense of what you need, and you get a better sense of what you need. So I tell them that their way of thinking is one way among many, and that if we're going to get to the business of helping other folks, we have to first get over ourselves.
Right, and sometimes people are surprised that folks have so many good ideas.
Yeah, right.
We think we've come with a great solution, and then you talk to community or people who are living with the problem, and they're like, "Wait a minute."
Yeah.
And it's like, "Oh, I hadn't even thought of that." So I think it's humbling when we do true community.
It requires being willing to slow up your pace for the pace, right? So if I'm pulling in such a direction where, again, it's all about me, I only see my perspective, I may drag you along with me, but we get so much further, so much faster if we're trying to do it collaboratively.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
When I'm dragging you, I don't know if we're going the right way or not. Right. I think lots of if it's about me, then you thought this was about fixing the problem. No, I just want to feel good. Right.
Yeah. Right. That's right.
So I think the truth of it is sitting down, listening to folks, engaging with folks, and what you'll find is that the thing you thought you knew, you might not have known.
That's right. Yeah. Sometimes that boogie monster in the closet is a teddy bear. It's just like a boogie monster in the shadows, right? So again, getting past the perception, right? And so for our profession, I don't know if you all have a similar social work story, but I remember when I would tell people I was going into the field, sometimes the reaction I would get would almost be like, "Oh, like you're going to be tied to a life of poverty, or we want better for you." In reality, no, I was drawn to the thing where I believed in my heart, and it's proven right that I can help the maximum amount of people by going into a field. So again, sometimes that thing that looks so scary is not what it is, because we don't get over ourselves, and we do allow those doubts and fears to kind of impact what we're thinking.
So how are y'all thinking about collaborating? Because that was our last question for this segment is, what are y'all going to do now? You've been meeting and learning about each other's programs.
I will yield to the elder statesman. I think that I have I got a few more rings around my tree than my brother Jamie over here. But I'm newer to the state and newer to the Commonwealth, right? Newer to in terms of my been on the job 2 years and a cup of coffee here at the U of L. So Dean Miller, what are some areas, just we've already connected and talked a little bit on Gambling Man, but what are some things that you would say, you know what? Timing, everything being ideal, these are some things that maybe we could partner on.
So I think number one is kind of recognizing the partnership's already happening.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of things that we already do. And again, I think it's almost so inherent to our spaces. We don't even, if you said, oh, we're partnering, I was like, oh, I guess we are. Because it's just work that we see that needs to be done. That's okay. But I think the workforce piece, hands down, is where we should be kind of all pushing in the same direction, really kind of understanding this collective space. You talked earlier about the whole perception of social work, which I think is the number one problem in the social work space, is getting folks to understand and to be empowered, emboldened. I tell folks, you know, on my campus, you should George Jefferson walk around campus as much work. If we don't do what we need to do, nothing moves. So whether it's in the educational spaces and thinking about our roles there, the medical spaces and thinking about our roles there, we really need to do a much better job at kind of framing what the profession is, and then speaking and understanding about its importance, not just from a value perspective, economically, to think about how much money we save the state in terms of offering preventative services and things like that. But I think getting this workforce to where it needs to be, not just in terms of sheer numbers, but in terms of competency. Anita and I work on projects, and we talk about day one ready all the time. I'm always frustrated when I see a student go into a workspace and supervisor will say, well, forget everything you learned. We're going to show you how we really do that here.
Right.
And we'll say, well, why don't we show them that in school? Why don't we should get day one ready and be ready to do some work? So I think not just the bolstering and expansion of, but the development of the workforce. The contemporary workspace is a beast. It is not what it used to be yesterday. So getting them prepared for what it's going to look like tomorrow, empowering faculty to help and to understand what we all need to do to prepare them. But like I said, that social problem, it doesn't stop in Fayette County or Jefferson County. Right. That's all in place. So I think we got to get together.
And by the way, I'd say almost ditto to that, right? In terms of a lot of times when Jay and I do communicate, we're rarely not on the same page anyway about an issue that we need to tackle, whether it be something involving students or practicum or you name it. I know that what's good for him in Lexington is good for me in Louisville, and what's good for Louisville is good for the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Mm-hmm. And as a non-native Kentuckian, learning that and embracing that as truth, to me, I think that separates all things rivalry. When we talk about what is the value of the dean of the College of Social Work at the University of Kentucky and the dean at the University of Louisville, Raymond A. Kent School of Social Work, well, other than the fact that we share geographic space, what is our why? And our why is we need more people to become social workers.
That's right.
We don't have enough people in the labor. We don't have enough people in the market. We are not necessarily inspiring that next generation of that top 9th or 8th grade student to say, I want to be like Jay Miller. Mm-hmm. I want to be like Anita Barbee. I want to be like, and I can list countless other numbers of our faculty across both of our programs. And I think that for me, that's one of those areas where we naturally align. And the reality of it all is we're already doing the work because we're pouring out our lives into this work. But again, man, I want to thank you for being not just an alum, but someone who early in my tenure here reached out to say, hey, man, welcome. And I think that certainly in terms of honoring you this year as our Alumni Fellow, it's a awfully good, I got your back, right? But the reality of it all is, man, well-deserved, especially when we're celebrating our 90th anniversary as a Kent School. Certainly think you represent so much of the legacy of the Kent School, our impact, and again, multiplication, not addition. So again, man, absolutely, man, I lean into the work and looking forward to more.
Likewise. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Now it's off to you to talk a little bit about leadership.
Well, listen, I think that at a certain point, we just need to pass the connector flavor around. Mitch. When you think your donation, we need one scholarship. To me, I really think that, and we've already kind of talked about some of this, right? So one of the things that, Jay, you already even mentioned in terms of how can we, one of the questions that I had listed here was, how can we ensure that students are prepared? And I turned the question a little bit more to not just adapting, but to be able to thrive in complex situations. But you already talked about being day one ready. Mm-hmm. And so let's elaborate on that just a little bit more in terms of, if we're thinking about it from innovation in the future, how can we ensure that students are going to hit the ground A1 ready in ways that we can perhaps scale across both our universities and also just the profession as a whole?
By investing in faculty staff. Okay. It's really kind of is understanding, and this just hit me, I do a lot of self-care wellness research. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest, I felt, I won't say dumb, but not smart. When I got, finally it struck me that, if I want to change child welfare outcomes, maybe I should focus on the people doing the work and ensure that they're well, right? And it's one of these things where so many times we get so focused on this outcome that we think we want. And so knowing and putting faculty in a space to know and understand, if they don't know AI, how are they going to teach students about AI? If we don't invest in our tech physical spaces, thinking about our digital deficiencies and information and data that we need to have, I think those are the things that we must do to situate a tomorrow learning environment.
Absolutely.
That could prepare them for a tomorrow work environment. Having these very candid relationships, social work is very unique in that we have these practicum situations. We need to lean more into those and really work with agencies to inform the curricular pieces.
Right.
I think, a lot of times, and I'm a theory guy. I love to talk theory all the time, but then understanding, well, how's it going to translate into what they're going to do, and to really get our faculty and staff to see that it is all of our responsibility to ensure that they are ready to practice on day one. And I don't mean that they're experts on day one. I just mean that they can be prepared to do a job, and that employers can have some confidence that when we send them out into the workspace, that they're prepared and ready to do the work. So
it truly is a partnership, right? In terms of we need each other.
Yeah.
The employers and us, and we need them, and our students need the bridge to be formed. Anita, same question for you. I'll restate it. How can we ensure students are prepared not just to adapt, but to lead, right, in some of our complex systems?
Giving those opportunities while they're here.
Yeah.
So having them be part of committees or work in collaboration with each other to make change in a productive way that they can actually see the outcome. Working on projects together. We do a lot of teamwork in classrooms. And they think, why are you making us do this? Because leadership comes out of that.
Right.
Someone will usually rise to the top and will kind of organize everybody. And then in another space, another person will rise up because they'll need a different kind of set of skills. And so they learn that about themselves. Because we talked about, we come with our own confidence. Right. We want them to have that. And so that's besides all the technical work that we're teaching them, giving them those opportunities to actually express it, I think is an important thing.
Agreed. The world looks so much different now in 2025 than it may have when we were at the grads 5 minutes ago.
I think you're on something really important. Like there's the academic piece of it. And there's a pragmatic piece of participating in a meeting, engaging in Zoom space. It's different now. And I think sometimes we kind of miss the common sense pieces of this is how you prepare for an interview, right? No matter where the interview is.
That's right.
But we don't, sometimes we get so caught up in the academic spaces, which again, we need to, but there's these other kind of supplementary or complementary parts.
Yes.
Again, it's the present part, right?
Yeah.
And so, it's just, I don't want to be that guy, but it's just so different now. Right. And even kind of just recognizing that students have different challenges, and we have to make sure that they're ready, and we need to be able to prepare them in a way that they can actually excel. I try not to think too long about how unrefined I was 20-something years ago, right? And so I think a lot of times we may lose sight of that.
Yes.
Last question for me in this section, Anita, since we've been so long, I want to let you go and move us on. But last question I would just be, and I think we've already kind of talked about this, but maybe let's end this section a little bit more of a peppy note.
Okay.
Social work is evolving so quickly, right? What innovations most excite you right now, right? Of all of the different things that are forthcoming, what's the thing that makes you say, you know what? Hey, if that right there goes the way it could go, this is going to be great for our profession. What excites you?
Yeah.
The tech. I'm really into the tech space, and just kind of the potential it has. And I always say, if we solved social problems the same way we sold shoes, we wouldn't have any.
Right.
So really getting us to think about, if Alexa knows when I need toilet paper before I know, how do we use that to serve a kinship provider or right? And it can be done.
Yeah.
And so I think really pushing the envelope, and a lot of the companies and corporations they need those types of use cases. Yeah. And so if we're willing to engage with them and reconceptualize, it does require sometimes tearing down what we are doing. Right. A lot of people, they want to patch it and fix it. And maybe I can tweak. This is a tear down. And you almost got to kind of reinvent the service delivery space. But we have to lean into the tech space. It is the future of everything. And there's an interesting dynamic that happens in that space. The things that we would never tolerate in our personal lives, we're perfectly fine tolerating in our professional lives. if you ask Alexa the temperature and Alexa didn't answer you, you'd lose your mind.
Oh,
In some spaces, right? Like,
right.
but we don't view it the same way in these professional spaces. We're perfectly fine walking around with clipboards and things in these spaces, right? So I think having some parallel world vision around thinking through, well, our game experiences and how we manage crowds, how we think about the event last night. I mean, it ran like a well-oiled machine, right? How could we think about some of our social service buildings operating in a similar way? So it has to be the tech. The future of everything is going to be in that space. And if we don't engage in it, it will engage.
Yeah.
Right.
They'll take us over.
Tell us what we're going to be doing. So.
What I love about that is just it's bold enough, right, that it requires excitement and a little bit of fear. No, even real.
That's true.
And I think that sometimes that can be a great motivator for systematic change. Dr. Barbee, what about you?
Well, I'm going to do the counter and say, while we're doing the tech, we also need to do the touch.
Yeah.
And so we need to be in spaces with each other. We need, and you agree with this because you like to get us together. It's like, forget this Zoom. I want you to come to my office. Because some of what's happening is tech is great and it's a good tool and we want to use it, but we lose some of that human connection, and that's partly why we're split. It's because we're talking to each other in ways we wouldn't in person. We're nicer.
Right.
And so I want to build both. So have some space where we're actually together, or as we're creating it, or as we're influencing it, rather than just abandoning. Because I think sometimes we've let our adolescents move totally to being online.
Right.
And that's a problem.
Yeah.
So we don't want that to happen to us as adults or as professionals. So a little back and forth, yin and yang.
Well, I do think you can have to me, the tech space allows us to engage in physical spaces in a deeper way.
That's true.
And so,
That's
true. And I do think it, you kind of start to
Like polling and,
or not only that, but like sometimes you can deal with the mess of a meeting before you even get there. Right. And so that we can actually spend that time focused on things that we need in these spaces.
Well, that's true.
So, the reviews and ticks and talks of a form and such, we can do all that beforehand. Right. And so it allows us to have much more meaningful interactions. And I think it's an excellent point. If we don't, we see it shaping everything. I don't know about you. Have you read a student paper that kind of reads like a text message lately?
Yes.
Yes. And we have an initial reaction to that. But I think, the core of social work is we have to acknowledge where people are. Right. The students are in a very different place.
Yes, they are.
Than we are. And so one position is to say, well, no, they should come over and do this and this. And I think to your point, it's going to have to be kind of a merge or a convergence, some overlap in the middle.
And I think and by the way, that's what I love about the beauty of this conversation, right? You got a little bit of that kind of hybrid, but think about everything we've talked about so far. We have to bring our full selves. We have to be authentic. We have to be able to adapt to the person and environment and real world issues. And as we know, life in 2025 looks so much different than life in 1995. And it's going to look different again in 2045. I just hope the robots don't take us over.
Oh, there's that.
I'm just saying, right? But all jokes aside, I certainly know that we'll have social work stand in the gap, in part due to all of the things we've been discussing today. Dr. Barbee, I'll let you transition to the next section.
All right. Well, I think we've covered some of these things around leadership and mentorship and community. And so again, maybe some advice for social work leaders, because you all are deans and you go to NAD and other meetings across the nation trying to help them move along. What's your advice to them as you lead from the places that you do? I'll start with you.
Thank you. I would say, and that's a great question, we don't know it all. Let me just start there, right? I think even in the leadership spaces, I think sometimes these jobs are big downloads, right? I mentioned I've been at the Kent School now a little over than 2.5 years, but the download of even the full size of the ship probably took a full 2 years. Yeah. And so oftentimes when we come in as leaders, there's such an internal pressure to make sure that we show and prove and demonstrate our ability. And again, that's natural. Yeah. But I think that if we look to the new future of what leadership will require in an ever-changing world, if we don't give ourselves grace as leaders to be able to learn how to do these jobs effectively, we will literally be in the hamster wheel of trying to recreate an old model where we need to have new models. Yep. And so that's not a shot at what we've done before in our past in our leadership, but I certainly think that I look at it as a privileged position, and I say it every day, anytime I get a chance to. I don't have to be dean, I get the dean.
Yeah.
Right? And if you were to go ahead and throw the dice, so to speak, of my life, and it could land anyway, what a place to land on the roulette wheel, right?
Yeah.
That I get to be dean. And so it comes with a great responsibility, but it's also an awesome, awesome privilege. And so for me, I think that truly leaning into the fact that we don't know it all, and we have to be innovative and be willing to even give ourselves chance to fully download the scope of the work so that we can take care of our institutions currently and also for the future as well, of not just social work, but higher ed in general.
That's good. That speaks to the fact that you want to be here a long time. And I see our other Dean Miller also sticking around because it takes a while to understand, to make change happen and to sustain it. Because it's one thing to make a change and to step away.
Right.
It's another to watch and have it flow through. So we appreciate that.
By the way, I have some food, right?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, I got it. I mean, I already told y'all I'm in dad joke season, right? So I'm just going to put it out there. But why does soul food taste so good? Because it's low and slow, right? Give me a good old pot of greens that's been on the stove all day. Give me some barbecue that's been cooking slowly. You're going to feel the love in it.
Yeah.
And I think that so often in our society now, we want everything to be microwave. But I think that when we talk about what leadership can and should do, there needs to be an willing investment, and that I'm willing to invest this time because I don't just want to give you any old plate of food. Right. I want to give you something worth having. So
That's right.
For me, I certainly use it as one of my foundational principles. And again, this is something where naturally Jay and I think we have some similarities there because we're doing it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, Jay.
Yeah, Jay, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it's interesting you say that because I've often tried to describe to people, you know, the minute that you sit down in the seat and the minute that you realize how big it actually is. And, you know, sometimes folks will come to me about something that happened in a day. And I'm like, there's absolutely no way I would have known that was happening in a day because there's so many things that you have to be attentive to. But I do think at the end of the day, for me, I really talk to folks about kind of putting together, forming teams and supporting teams of folks. Getting folks in the space that feel comfortable challenging you and talking to you about alternative points of view. If you sat in some of our meetings or if you walk by and heard it, you'd think, what are they fighting? Right? And it's really because we want to be open and, you know, in meetings we'll go through and I'll say, okay, now you have to disagree with this. Whatever somebody says, you have to disagree with it, right? As a way, because I truly believe through that dynamic discourse, you get to the best space.
Absolutely.
And so I think sometimes as leaders, we take on too much of it. And I'm guilty of this. It's one of the things I work on every day is to not take everything and just try to do it.
Right.
Because it's just not sustainable.
Right.
And then at the end of the day, you get excited about it and then you get mad.
Right.
Because like, I gotta do it all, you know, and I'm like, so kind of empowering people to mess up, I say, just, you know, we're not going to get it all right. We're going to make bad decisions. I make 9 or 10 a day, right? Yeah. It's just kind of having a system or a support network that allows you to see past those. Right. Very, very seldom are decisions catastrophic. Very seldom.
Yeah.
Now, there are some that are, and those are ones we make together. But I think at the end of the day, really empowering the folks around to be supportive, us being supportive of them, building a contemporary workspace where folks can have some dynamic, multi-generational, multi-space discussions about how we're going to move forward. Leadership is never about one person.
Absolutely.
It's about a group of folks.
Yep.
Be attentive to that.
Absolutely.
That's excellent.
All right.
All right. I don't know how we're doing. You know what? What do you think?
Okay, well, listen, we're getting, you can't see it on the screen here, but we're getting the rap signal. So I mean,
Okay. All right. That's what I was thinking.
But listen, it's been a true joy and an honor. So there was no script necessary for this. I'm going to speak. Dr. Barbee, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom. Jay, my man, appreciate you, man.
Likewise.
And again, congratulations on being our 2025 Alumni Fellow. Congratulations on being the 2024 Alumni Fellow. It is truly, truly, truly been an honor and a privilege to share this conversation with you all. And we hope that you got something from this as well in terms of we're here doing the work, but this all exists for the public we serve, right? So I have the privilege of serving in higher education. We care deeply about the Commonwealth of Kentucky. We care deeply about social work and the history and the future of it. And so what a joy, what an honor, what a privilege. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say in our 90th anniversary year, what an occasion to celebrate the true impact of the Kent School in teaching, research, and service. And if you didn't hear that through this conversation, I invite you to rewind this and watch it all over again, because that is absolutely what we're about here at the Kent School. So with that, thank you all so much for your time and attention. Once again, my name is Dean John Miller, and Elza, go Cards.
All right.